Welcome to SVC Game Day live from Zane Trace High School, where in just over an hour the Pioneers will host the Piketon Red Streaks in a battle of conference unbeatens. Hello everyone, I'm your host Michael Johnston, and this is the much anticipated game we've been waiting for all week. Let's take a look at the SVC standings. Piketon is sitting at the top with a 6-1 overall record, 4-0 in conference play. Zane Trace also 4-0 in the SVC. Unioto right there. The Shermans aren't out of it yet. The Tanks are 3-1 and can get right back in the hunt if Piketon can win tonight. The Red Streaks took care of the Huntsmen last week 33-12, an explosive offense led by Gabe Burkheimer that scores a lot of points. The Pioneer defense will need to play a near perfect game to slow down this high-powered offense. Zane Trace started off slow with 2 straight losses to very powerful opponents, but that team has rallied around quarterback Austin Harris and now won 5 straight, both teams averaging near 30 points per game, so this could be a shootout tonight here in Kinnickinnick. That brings us to tonight's keys of the game. Really, it's going to come down to which team's defense makes the fewest mistakes. For Zane Trace, it's all about the secondary and can their corners clamp down and at least slow down this Red Streak air attack. For Piketon, contain, contain, contain. If they can't find a way to contain Harris, the Red Streaks might just see a red jersey streaking down the sideline, running away with their hopes of an SVC championship. We caught up with Coach Hall earlier to get his reaction to tonight's game. Big game tonight. Huge game tonight for you guys. Big game for the SVC. What do you expect tonight?
Yeah, well, actually, you're absolutely right about it. It's one of the bigger games we played in a lot of years around here. These guys, we're talking about these seniors around here, have always, they're playing their 4th season here, and they've either win or tied for the league each year. So it's a huge game from a lot of different respects. But I expect our guys to come out with a great week of practice. Our guys are really up to date. They played these big games before, so they know how to prepare for these things. And our guys are ready to play.
On Piketon side of the ball, they got Gabe Burkheimer. A kid's explosive and good. I mean, what do you need to do tonight to stop him?
Well, they got 2 guys. Obviously, I got 2 guys. They got the good quarterback, Albie Burkheimer. Then they got Beach, the good receiver that they have. So they got all the tools to move the football. So we've been working all week, playing a lot of Skelly all week, doing a lot of different things. But we've got to be ready to play those 2 kids. Make sure we got those kids on our mind on every snap of the ball, because those kids factor in almost every offensive play they have, and we got to be ready to play those guys.
And for you guys, you have Austin Harris, and you know, you guys started out, I think it was 0-2, and then everybody just seems like rallied, everybody came together, and now it's just things just seem to be on a roll.
They do seem to be that way, but obviously we got a big game tonight. But you know, we just spent a lot of time after week 2 and just kind of narrowing our focus on trying to do what we do well and understanding what our job is. I think we had a lot of kids early week 2. We had some young kids on defense. We're still trying to learn and try to be in the right place and things like that. And we just try to narrow our focus. You know, if your job is A gap, that is your job, okay? If you got a blitz call, and that is your job, okay? If you pull on a certain play, that is your job, okay? And we try to narrow that focus with those kids, those younger kids, from a Friday night standpoint sometimes, the younger kids. And we try to narrow that focus down and try to get better and better each week. And I think that's what you've seen here the last few weeks.
And the last question I have is, you know, this is a real thrill. I mean, you know, more than 10 years ago, I coached high school football at the SVC, and this is just incredible to be able to play and be a part of a game like that.
Yeah, it is. We talk about we've seen to have the last 3 or 4 or 5 years around here. We played some big games at Zane Trace. You know, we made the playoffs last year. We did a lot of first type things last year, and you know, like I said, we went back to these seniors. They played in championship games every year, so I think we're prepared to know how to play in these championship games. And you're right about that. It's one of the biggest games we played in here in a long time. Not only for what could happen in the future, but what's going to happen in the future, or what could happen in the future, but what's happened in the past. And we got to keep these things going and keep these kids motivated and keep them pointed to the right direction at the end of the year.
And one more thing that I just wanted to ask you about. You know, for the longest time, the SVC, it seemed like it was dominated by Paint Valley or Westfall. It was really those 2 programs, but there seems to be a lot more parity in the league now.
I thought going into this year, I mean, we talked about you know, each year you kind of talk about the teams coming, who you're playing, who they lost, blah, 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 type of things like that. And we were going into it knowing that, you know, Paint Valley had lost a lot of kids. They had 12 to 15 seniors. Unioto pretty much the same way. And actually I found out, I didn't really realize it, but we played Piketon last year. They had a nice senior class last year, plus us. So there was 4 teams there really that lost a lot of kids and lost a lot of playing experience over the years. And those teams, like you said, it's kind of reloaded a little bit. They kind of stepped up, and, you know, Unioto's doing what they've been doing. And, you know, Paint Valley's got a lot of nice young kids there. And obviously you see the place that the Piketon's in right now. Okay, so they did a good job replacing some of the guys that they had. Then obviously we got us there too. So we had a big senior class last year, but these kids are playing hard. They understand what it takes to win, and they come out and prepare each day, and they've had a good week of practice. So, you know, we're ready to play.
Another big game to watch for is Huntington traveling to Unioto tonight. The Shermans are 5-2 overall, 3-1 in conference play, and their only loss, week 4, 38-20 at Zane Trace, here at Zane Trace. Unioto is still alive in the race for the SVC crown. If Piketon wins tonight, then the Shermans travel to Piketon next week, and a win there would create a three-way tie at the top of the SVC going into the final week of the regular season. But none of that can happen if they don't take care of business tonight against Huntington. We talked to Coach Metzler earlier today. Their record doesn't really reflect what kind of a team they are. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I would agree with that. I mean, they're 3-4. They've got a running back that runs hard. They've got a good passing game with some skilled athletes that are dangerously fast. And we've got to be able to tackle and play physical and make plays.
Down at Southeastern, the Panthers will host the Adena Warriors for homecoming. Last week, the Panthers won a thriller over Paint Valley. With 40 seconds left in the game, Austin Blevins hauls in the 24-yard touchdown to put Paint Valley up 33-30, but Dakota Hauser catches the ball on a post route, gets the ball down to the Paint Valley 12, and with 21 seconds remaining, he'd score on the next play, giving Southeastern a 36-33 lead with 16 seconds remaining. So the final score, Southeastern stuns Paint Valley 36-33. The Panthers are 4-3 overall, but just 1-3 in the SVC. The Panthers are out of the SVC race, but are still alive to make the playoffs. If Coach Evan Gallaugher can pull his team together and win out, a 7-3 Panther squad would likely be in. We talked to Evan Gallaugher earlier today. You have Adena here at home. Adena is not quite the team that their record reflects. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. Adena's a traditional Adena team, big, strong, physical up front. They're going to rely on their run game to set up the pass, and so even though they're 1-6, I don't want that to really misspell a lot of the fans out there. They're a pretty tough ball club.
You guys yourself, you started 3-0 and things were rolling. Then you had 3 straight losses, which are to the top 3 teams in the league right now. And then you rebounded last week and you had a dramatic win there. So what did last week really do for this team going forward?
Well, I think that's the big question is I think that, it started to bring us together a little bit. And we'll find out tonight what it did for us. Did it bring us together as a group and get our guys relying and believing in each other? And if so, the sky's the limit.
You guys, with the 3 games left and with the teams on the schedule, some people look at that and say realistically, you guys could end up 7-3. But you say you take this one game at a time, but with the meat of that schedule over with, it does look like it might be a bigger possibility you could end up that way. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, the SVC is a league this year that has a lot of parity. And I think top to bottom, week in, week out, if you're not ready to play football, you could probably get caught up in some sticky situations if you're not careful. And that's the way I look at our last 3 ball games. I think this year there's a couple of pretty good teams on the top half, and then everybody else is kind of meeting and grinding through the schedule. It's one game at a time. Right now we're playing, week 8 in Adena, and we know Adena is going to come down here and give us everything they got, and that's just kind of how our outlook is right now.
What's your feeling about this team that you have this year? I would say any coach would say they enjoy coaching in the SVC, this Panther team looks like they're a scrappy team that just loves to play, and it looks like they love playing with each other. Well,
this is something I've said quite a few times. Is any team throughout team sports, if they like being around each other, they're going to be successful. And I think these guys really like being around each other. Number one. Number two, these guys have put in our senior class, which is 8 deep, one of the biggest senior classes I've had since my first year here. They put a lot of time in the weight room, and I think that's kind of showing off on the front line for us. And our junior class is what makes up our skill guys. They like being around each other, number one. They put a lot of hard work in the weight room, and then that's football in a nutshell. You watch big-time Power 5 conference football on Saturday. The difference between those guys and those guys that are playing in the MAC or some of the smaller conferences, just the sheer size and strength and speed of what they got. And our guys are getting a little bit bigger and stronger, and it's equating to a little bit more success on Friday night.
Last question. Overall, from year to year, the program in general, have you seen growth in the program and in Southeastern football in general going forward?
You know, that's something that, you know, I think if you sit up in the stands, you look at the scoreboard Friday nights, and that's kind of how you judge the success of a program or, you know, a head coach. And every year we've been here, we come in with some short-term goals and some long-term goals. And, you know, every year we've been able to check off a lot of our short-term goals. First year we came in, we were 4-6 with some opportunities to go a little further than that. You know, the next 2 years were a little rough by the scoreboard, but we were meeting our goals. Program-wise, first year 42 guys, second year 47, 41, and then this year 38. And you know, so we're getting quite a few kids out for our program, and I think, you know, the wins will follow later down the line.
Southeastern's 3 losses were at the top of the 3 teams in the SVC, so that gauntlet is over with Adena and a down Westfall team that they'll play home next week, and a Huntington left on their schedule. A 7-3 finish is very possible for Southeastern. Up north, Paint Valley visits Westfall. For so many years, this was a matchup that was considered the game in the SVC, with both teams almost compared to an Ohio State-Michigan game as far as the SVC is concerned. But in recent years, there's been a lot more parity in the league, with teams like Zane Trace, Piketon, and Unioto stepping up. Paint Valley suffering that heartbreaking loss at Southeastern last week, the first loss to the Panthers since 2010. Meanwhile, the Mustangs have managed only 1 win this season. With Southeastern and Zane Trace left on the schedule tonight, very well could be the team's last shot at a win this year. Other games happening around the area tonight: Clinton Massey will be at Chillicothe, Amanda will be at Logan Elm, Liberty Union travels to Circleville, Meigs invades Jackson, Vinton County goes to River Valley, Alexander will be at Nelsonville York, and Wellston will travel to Athens. That concludes our pregame show from here at Zane Trace. We'll have complete video highlights after the game of this game, Southeastern, and the Unioto Huntington game. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook for all the latest SVC football action. SVC Gameday is property of SVP Media. This program is copyrighted and may not be used in whole or part without the express written consent of SVP Media. Enjoy the games, folks.